Hey everybody, Cory from Aquariumcoop. Today, I'm looking at all my tanks and bringing you along and showing you all my problems and how I'm fixing them. And then some look pretty good too, but just a normal, average kind of fish room, not presented for a show or anything, just like, hey, this is how it looks. Here is my 65 gallon I got from Custom Aquariums. Still in love with the stand and the quality and all of that, and my mess over here because I've got to set up more tanks, but loving the actual stand itself and the glass work and everything. So it's been set up for probably, I'm gonna say like 2 months now or something. We're injecting CO2. Look right down here. Aquariumcoop CO2 regulator doing his job. And we've got pearlweed. Call it the pearlweed tank. And it's growing in. The way I did it was I put in pots of pearlweed and I'm letting it grow. And then I trimmed it back so it would stay bushy, and I'm trying to carp it. And it's getting fairly dense. Like, yes, I've got a mono shrimp working on some of the little algae that grows. You can see the bubbles lifting off of the plants every once in a while. The light's been on for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, so it's not quite up to... This will get really going towards the end of the day where the CO2 has been on and we've hit maximum saturation of oxygen in the water. Got the teacup platies in here. And they haven't really, popped out any babies or anything yet. Or at least that I've seen. They could be well hidden down. Wait, there's one right there. I literally just saw one. So they have been popping out babies. And I was about to say, this pearlweed is so dense that we might not see them. And that is exactly the case. It is so dense that the babies can basically hide out down in here. Now you can see the root structure. You see all the white parts of the roots, like that one right there. That's going to grab itself down into the gravel, and that's how I prefer to grow this plant. If you chop it up into one pot as 20 plants, it just keeps lifting off, and you get this kind of stuff going on, where you've got some floaties. Now this is what this tank normally looks like when I'm just letting it do its thing. I feed it, I enjoy it, that kind of stuff. Got some monster mono shrimp doing work. There's some hillstream loaches doing some work in here. And I'm waiting for this tank to finish balancing. So what does that mean? This tank's only 2 months old. And so I've got algae on the plants a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of algae, a little bit of hair algae on these guys. And my mono shrimp are helping me with that. You can see that I get algae on the glass. So I let it be over there, that's where snails are. And then you can see I get some down at the line. Obviously I can bring my little mag float here and go, hey look, there went the algae. But every time you do this isn't really helping you establish balance necessarily. We want to get it where the plants, the fertilizers, and the creatures living in there will basically handle it. You can see here, like this snail is working on it for me. That little pond pest snail. He's doing some work. So I enjoy a tank like this. I will enjoy it much more when it fully kind of carpets in all through here. And then I'm going to let the back grow up. So this plant is actually a stem plant, but when you train it to stay low, it'll spread. And then it'll also grow tall. You can see this, here's a good example. So you see how that's the stem plant one. It's growing up. When you trim it down and you kind of force it to spread, it does more of this, where all these plant roots come out and reach for the ground. And so eventually you won't see any of the pots that I had. And you won't see the crushed coral in the corner, and it's just going to be this green carpet and this kind of mountain look with these red fish, and there'll be shrimp in there, and we'll have the CO2 completely blocked in the corner. You can see that airline or that CO2 line. And you see over there we've got the sponge filter, and that's why I run the green. It's going to blend in really well, and that gets a little bit higher right there. And yes, can you use CO2 with a sponge filter? You definitely can. Am I getting purling? Yes. I would get way more later in the day. Imagine that the CO2 is warm water, and imagine that the sponge filter is cold water. Now, if I didn't have a sponge filter, it would be easier to keep this water warm. But if I do have a sponge filter, guess what? I just turn it up a little bit, and that's what I do. The difference between having a sponge filter and not is almost nothing. I don't know if you'll be able to see the bubbles per second there, but it's not too fast, and I don't have to crank it up much. So the difference, I could use a hang-on back filter or a canister or something like that, but the reality is in a tank like this, the plants are doing 99% of the work. They're growing, they're purifying the water, all of that. That is mostly for circulation. I want it so it'll circulate the CO2 and the nutrients and the food that I put in. So let's move on. Over here we've got Elmer with the gorgeous looking Cupido. These guys that look like little rainbows. They got a nice little pink color to them and everything. And I've got the Variatus platies and lots of black beard algae growing on all my fake decorations because I don't have any live plants. So that's what happens. Even when you don't have plants, you grow algae. And then, you know, this looks natural-ish, but it looked really unnatural without anything live in there. So he kind of just cruises around. You've got the skunk Corys over here rolling around like a gang, Cory gang. And they just eat and do their own thing. And, you know, pretty soon I need to order the bigger tank. Within the next year or so, I'm going to order a much bigger tank. This guy's growing like a weed, so I'm not quite feeding him as much as I could be. Check in on the 40 breeders. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff in transit. I decided to go with Rasbora hets because I saw them and I was like, man, I love that fish. Why don't I keep that fish? And I said, I'm keeping it. Put a few little cherry shrimps in here. Still waiting on basically crypts to convert and do their thing. It's still looking sparse. It'll take probably another 3 to 6 months to really fill in, but I like the green that's taken hold on the rocks. I put in a lily bulb and an auto feeder. But the lily bulb right here is floating still. I'm waiting for it to basically, starting right there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Once it starts sprouting a little bit, then I'll plant it down. I'm going to put it back there. So I'm just floating it for now until it wants to sprout. Over here, this is another 40 breeder. I've got some flagfish. They're eating some algae. And a bunch of little pygmy corridoras. And I'm not quite sure I'm doing this yet, other than it's going to be this is dwarf Sagittaria. I'm waiting for this to carp it out and kind of drown out the algae. And then I'm going to put, I think I'm going to put Brigitae rasboras in there. So for now, it's just kind of marinating and growing. Uh-oh, water change just turned on. Let me turn that off. It's water changing right over here, actually. So I'll show you guys that. This is the auto water change, goes on every day. You can see the water coming in, just like that. And through here, yeah, I'm going to turn that off because it's going to be annoying to hear it. And stop. Got it. So while we're over here, just kind of holding some plants and some fish, really. And what I was going to show you, I started up some daphnia. Being that I got all this green water over here, I said, hey, let me get some daphnia. And so I've got plants and daphnia, and you can maybe see some squiggling in there, but I actually put them in both tanks. Going to try to get that going to help feed my fish. Back to where we were over here. So here we can see this is the quarantine for fish are going in the house. Now, what are we seeing? Why are we seeing this like cloudy water and all that? Well, basically, I've got a powerful light and no plants. So with the fish waste, it just equals green water. So I'm going to clean that up eventually, but for now, still just quarantining. They got a bad case of velvet. I think we've made it through that, so I'm glad about that. And, you know, I'm going to eventually redo this whole tank and plant it. This is why I hate black substrate. You see all that fish poop and everything just sits on the top. And you really got to clean a bunch to fix that, whereas, like, not so much there. It's the problem there, too, but not a problem over here. So we'll go right over here. This is the black-chinned Livebearer. I've got a few more flagfish. They're helping eat the algae on the wood. And then mostly this is a tank that needs, I don't like the fine sand, so we're going to pull that out, redo it, clean it all up. Got the auto feeder going. Auto feeder, I've got hooked up to power 24/7. It feeds once a day. Like if I hit this button, I could feed right now for you guys. Boom. Scotch tape trick that people have been asking about because I've been mentioning. Put the food in. These guys will come and eat. Just like that. So I have that happen once a day. Now the good parts about an auto feeder is it's kind of like you're fertilizing your tank. Every day is going to get a dose of that food. The same dose pretty much. In addition, I'm going to feed also, but like clockwork, the plants can rely on that nutrient. So not only does it grow your fish really well and keep them fed and you can go on vacation, all that, it helps balance, takes one more element out of your aquarium. that you have to balance for. Here we've got Catopleaf Mania, 83 degrees. I'm actually heating this tank. You can see the Aquariumcoop heater in the back there. Little air stone we're testing. And then lots of Catopleaves. This is my Cardinal shrimp tank with the mini rabbit snails. So you can see these little mini rabbit snails I've got right here. Enhance. So those little guys. And then I've got the Cardinal shrimp, which are hard to film because they're so reclusive. But they're little tap dancers. And my goal is to breed them. I failed twice previously. Try not to fail again. And so minimal fertilizers going in. Trying to kind of feed it with food. I put a wonder shell in. Catopleaves. And so this Anubias is struggling a little bit. Same with these ones. These yellow leaves that you see. That's it not getting quite enough food. I might dose a little bit more. But I'm really just trying to put more food in to help feed. And until I can start getting some babies. When you don't know what's going wrong, the least amount of variables possible helps. But, you know, I kind of just like the way this tank looks and operates. And once there's 3,000 little Cardinal shrimp in there, I'll be having the time of my life. But until then, we've got probably a year of just like, it'll be cool when it's cool. If it had this many shrimp over here, I'd be a lot happier. So you can see in here we've got some mixes of orange shrimp and red shrimp. And I've been culling out some of these and putting them in the turtle tank. We've also got some stir-by Corydoras. And then again, auto feeder. I've used the tape trick because I don't want a whole lot of food going in to just these shrimp and these guys, so I can hit the feed button. This will also feed again later today at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon because that's when it's set to run. But you can see it didn't put very much food in there at all. It might look like a lot once it spans out, but you know, for probably 1,000 shrimp and then all the Corydoras, not too much. And it kind of sits at the top for a long time. Now that'll be very useful. I'll show you a trick with that in the Celestial Pearl Danio tank. Obviously, I'm gonna do something with this tank long term, but for now, just like, it's kind of shrimping. And I've got bigger fish to fry, like this one. Finally, hopefully I have all the duckweed out of this one. Goldfish have been kicking up everything, so you get debris settling on all this dwarf sage that I'm kind of growing out. And so when I say you can plant it in the pot and it will grow, you can see it doing it right here. Like it bounced out of the pot, it bounced out of the pot there, it bounced out of the pot there. So you can plant these pots and not disturb the roots or anything, because the roots grow through the pot. You can see it right here. This guy's just been floating. That's all it's been doing. And if I take this and I plant it anywhere, it's going to thrive. I've still got those crypts just chilling in there, Crypt One Deadeye Reds from when we did the first tank way down there. I just let them chill. So I'm a guy that'll definitely buy plants or bring plants home early and just let them convert. They're just, you know, this immerse grown leaf is converting. We want more leaves like that. So less like that, more like that. Slow growing plants. This tank, I just moved all the goldfish out. Need to get fertilizer. The Java ferns are sad and making lots of babies at the tips going, hey, we're dying here. We're dying. You see all the poop on top of the sand? That's what I don't like. I like it when it goes into the gravel. So poop will settle on top of finer substrates and you got to look at it. I don't like that. You can see all the poop settling over here. I don't like that. You go to gravel, oh, you don't see it anymore. Well, this one's got a lot of plants too, but you don't see it nearly as much. This one also had green water, and so I was using UV sterilizer, so it's ready to kind of get that substrate out, get it rocking and rolling, and be the next, you know, one of the, you know, these two tanks. I also want to show in here, the plants are purling. Even though I'm not injecting any CO2, you'll see some bubbles coming off the plants. I don't know if you guys, yeah, you see some of these bubbles? So with a strong light, like, you know, the Aquariumcoop light or a Fluval light, you can actually get purling and the plant's really happy. Even, you know, you saw a big bubble over there maybe. Like this one's a little bit of damage, that's what's doing that one, but there's other ones that are, you know, basically thrive. Oh, I keep missing it, but big bubbles do lift off and that's a good sign. Over here, I just trimmed and did a little video about Vallisneria, but these are my Trout goodyeids. These are a Livebearer, and they actually have little umbilical cords and stuff, so they're not like a guppy. They're a little different. They have bigger babies, they live in them longer, and they come out a little bigger. So these guys are actually kind of great hair algae eaters as well. And they like to be cooler temp. So all the bubbles you see here, that's because I trimmed this. So it's releasing because the plant's damaged and it's just oxygen was stuck in it. It's not like, oh, these things are so happy. Like, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of plants in here, and they are very happy. Over here, We've got our celestial pearl danios, and we've got the crypts that we planted and things like that. This guy's not doing so hot. I should probably intervene. But the rest of them doing pretty darn good around here. And the shrimp are going nuts as well. Now all these leaves, they're blocking some light and that kind of stuff, but as they deteriorate, they become covered in bacteria and the shrimp want to eat them. I got cloudy water. These two tanks, I've still been struggling with the cloudy water. And I've done infinite water changes. I've tried UV sterilizer. I've tried water clarifier, and nothing's really done it for me. So the trick I want to show you, I've got, there's a big group of celestial pearl danios. They're very reclusive, and they only want to eat mid-water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the feed button. I'm going to back up to this chair and zoom in and let you guys kind of see how the auto feeder, because it puts the food so gently on the top, it will feed over the course of like 10 minutes. It's really nice. So I'm going to hit this feed button. Boom. So you can see all the food kind of sitting at the top. And it's going to do that for like 20 minutes, honestly. The sponge filter we've got going with a little bit of flow, as you can see. See the plants purling there. So you're going to see the CPD start to come out now that I'm far enough away. And it's a very reclusive fish, but you can see they know the food's going to start dropping. The shrimp are going to start knocking it down because they'll start grabbing it. So there's a piece of food. It's slowly dropping down. Is anyone going to notice it? It'll be shrimp food. Nope, that CPD got it. Like, it's good they're eating off the top. They weren't doing that for a long time. I think the feeder actually fixed that. Because when I was feeding and I would drop the food in, they'd be too scared to come and eat. And a lot of the food would hit the bottom before. So now at the auto feeder, maybe that's another thing I should tell people about auto feeders, is that reclusive fish feed much easier and better when it's an auto feeder, because there's not, like, what happens is there's a back shadow from me coming from the skylight, and they think it's a predator. So you can see this tank starts getting pretty active with fish and shrimp and everything, and in the next 20 minutes it'll just be crazy in there because they get all feisty with food, and all the shrimp start going, oh my gosh, there's food everywhere. So in there's celestial pearl danios, there's a tiger shrimp, and there's some gold Hederander formosa, which is the smallest Livebearer. You can see that little guy right there. That's a full-grown male. So they're like tiny compared to celestial pearl danios even. That's a full-grown male. The females get to about the size of a celestial pearl danio, and they give birth fairly frequently, but only like one fry at a time. You can see the female up there. You know, it's like the size of a shrimp, and that's a full-grown female. All right, then the next tank over, this is a lot of African fern bulbitis, and it's just leftover Vienna guppy fry and cherry shrimp. Now, I've just been letting it sit in there because it was really covered in blackbeard algae, and the fry and the cherry shrimps have been working on it. So it's actually getting a lot cleaner. There's still algae, no doubt. And then in this tank over here, need a total tear down. Want to move the eel because the eel has to have a top. Blue-green algae everywhere. This is the worst. The fact that I introduced this and we used it for videos and blog articles on how to cure it. Pain in the butt. Really need to just kind of nuke it and get rid of it and clean it all up, rinse it out. But I've got the eel in there, and I've got these betta pugnacks. And these are a betta that is a mouth brooder. So the males will actually be a mouth brooding species. One trick I was going to show you guys, you can remove the, let me set it up and I'll show you. I'll be right back. It's about this far from falling in the water, so that's a good move. So you pull it, it hits that click. That's supposed to be the max. But if you just pull it past it, like in a even motion, it gets past these little notches. You see the notches like right here? That's the part that. But if you bend and snap this thing, like, that's on you. But if you do it, it's nice. It pulls out pretty easily in a fluid motion. But if you do it wrong, like, it locks into place and it's a lot harder, right? So it's just fluid motion. Fluid motion works. And let me show you the results. So see, if you pull down on it, it wants to lock in. It's got to be a nice. Let me do the other one real quick. Let me put it back on the tank. And now let me show you how much flatter and you get no light bleed. So there we go. Now you've got a nice flush that sits down in, and it still sits off the glass, so there's still air, but it's not like this like it was, where we were seeing all that. Now it's nice and in there. So it was kind of more like this, where you'd see that, and now it just sits inside of it. And then I just store these in case I ever want to upsize this, because this 3 foot can fit a 4 foot tank. We're now sold out of all sizes but 24 inch at the moment. Hopefully, maybe by the time this video comes out, we're restocked. Otherwise, it's going to be within like a week or two. Mid-April is when we're shooting for the restock. We've got the turtle tank. You guys have seen a video on this. Got the 5 eggs. Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully they'll hatch out and we'll have turtle babies. That'll be exciting. Got the lay box installed. Just need to get some nice rocks. Shrimp are still doing okay, magically. Even though I put them in here as culls, they might get to live. Just fed for another video, so water's extra dirty in this one. And then, yeah, I might import some fish up here. That's what these are kind of, the lights are back on them for. The lights haven't been on these tanks in 3 months. And so you can see, like, this plant's actually doing pretty good, even though, literally, this light has not been on for 3 months. And it's been sitting dark. And then, even this Anubias. So, when people say Anubiases can grow in the dark, it's kind of true. Now, not all of them did. Like, this one struggled. This one hasn't had light in like 4 or 5 months because these lights burned out even when they were running. So you could see, like, it's showing a nitrogen deficiency with it being yellow, but that's because it hasn't been able to photosynthesize. All the ones that, you know, have only not had light for 3 months, I stole that plant, but they're actually still doing pretty good. So, interesting. Oh, I threw some crypts in here too. Yeah, so there's some, that one didn't do so hot with no light. But, you know, some of these plants can go just incredibly low light, which is nice. All right, let's take a look at the 800 gallon, wrap this thing up. Then you got Ladybird. Got algae because of the skylight, curse you, natural sunlight, which is amazing, but also the bane of my existence every year coming out of winter. The valves growing like gangbusters. I turned down the light a little bit because we were getting way too much algae going on over here. And it's the way the light has to sit because of those come out of the water. So if I go up here, so the way the lights sit, it's kind of weird. So I turned that down a little bit. What did we add? We added some flagfish to help with the algae and reticulated hillstream loaches. I need to get in here and remove a lot of this valve though, up front, because it's making Ladybird not want to lay down there. Not lay down, but like go there as much. So, you know, I need to work on that a little bit. I kind of just like chilling in my chair now. That's my goal, is chill in the chair, figure out what I want to do, what I want to teach you guys, what I want to show you and share. And that's been a lot of fun. So now I'm just going to go and feed a bunch of fish and find some other stuff to work on. So hopefully you guys are staying passionate with your fish tanks and working on stuff, and maybe you're listening to this right now. If you want to talk more fish, go visit our forum, or not a forum, sorry. Well, you could visit our forum, aquariumcoop.com. We have a forum. We also have the Facebook group, which has been super fun to share pictures and video, and I do that probably at least once a day. So like today, I'm filming on a Friday, and it's like we posted, hey, post pictures of your fry. So I'm going to show people probably pictures of the trout goodyeids there, and it's fun to see what everybody's doing, because sometimes they're going, wow, you're doing what? Plus, you know, people like Oliver Knott and Chris Lukup and other famous people hang out there, and it's a low-key thing. So join up, answer the questions, otherwise you can't get in. Be a good person, otherwise you get kicked out. And have fun with the rest of us. We'll see you there. We'll talk to you. Dean will be there. We'll have fun.
Thanks for watching this video. We hope that you enjoyed it. We picked another one that we thought you might like. You can click on it right here.